Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And welcome back. I hope your weekend was outstanding and you're enjoying this very lovely and beautiful Labor Day, our favorite holiday, when every government worker who's not doing much all the time is taking the day off, not doing much all the time today. So we're excited to celebrate our labor and all the things, but what we notice every time we have one of these many federal holidays is things are pretty light there on the schedule. And this is what it looks like today. So the president's got nothing going on, been pretty quiet over there at the White House. A lot of people talking about that. But Trump's posted up a storm. And so we'll go through the latest on this. But you can see light schedule over there at the White House today. And we'll keep our eye on that. If anything changes, of course, we'll be here. But it's also pretty light over there at the C-SPAN headquarters. You can see not much going on here, bunch of Washington Journal stuff, and that's pretty much the game. But we have a tremendous show planned ahead because we've got a bunch of stuff. First of all, Rubio's having fun with Labor Day, and he's saying USAID is officially on the way out, saying that they are closing out the agency, and they're in closeout mode, is what Rubio had to say. So we'll see what is going on there, but we'll also look at this organization once again, Global Health Council. You remember this so-called group of like vaccine AIDS doctors or whatever it is they do. Well, we're still duking it out with them over billions of dollars. And we've got an update in court because Trump's DOJ responded saying, don't make us give them this money. Okay, there is no irreparable harm. They're not entitled to billions of dollars from the American taxpayer. And so they can just go file their claim somewhere else. So Trump's DOJ responded. We'll go through it. We've got some reactions to the latest rescissions and this fight over billions of dollars. We saw last week that Trump officially notified Congress. Yeah, we're rescinding the money. It's rescinded. It's not going to these crap organizations anymore. And of course, Susan Collins, the Senate Appropriations Chair, said, I'm happy about this. And so we'll see what she said. Then PBS posted this entire documentary, which is ridiculous. About 6 days ago, about a week ago, they posted a whole cut, 30 minutes. We cut their funds, and this is what they're spending the remaining of their money on. It was, you cut our funds and everyone's going to die. So they put out a whole documentary. We're not going to watch it. I'm just flagging it for you. And then we got reaction here from the Secretary of Labor. So all that coming up, a little Labor Day and spending updates because our taxpayer dollars go to fund these people. But we've got that. Then we're going to talk about the sorority sisters. These two ladies here, Judge Gia M. Cobb, this judge from D.C. appointed by Biden, and this woman, Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve governor, they were in the same sorority together. And now the judge is handling her case. And so we'll talk about it. Trump saying they need to be recused. We've also got a copy of Judge Cobb's public judicial questionnaire that we can go through and see, oh, she was a member of the sorority. Isn't that fun? And so we'll go through it. There's some little tidbits also. We got Lisa Cook, so the other half of this thing, her tenure packet. And apparently she's not an economic scholar. I know you're shocked about it, but apparently she's not. Kind of made a lot of it up. So we'll talk about that. Courtesy of Chris Brunette. Awesome report from him, and I'd encourage you to follow him over at Chris Brunette on X. Then we'll get into the deportation saga and the fact that CBS News is editing out Kristi Noem's interviews. She had a great conversation over on CBS about how Kilmer, wife-beating Brago, is a wife beater, and they cut all of that out. She's not happy about it, and thankfully she got the full snippet and posted it for all of us to enjoy. So we'll go through that, and then we'll get an update on the case that just came out of D.C. because, again, this judge, Judge Cobb over here, she sent another one saying, you can't deport the illegals. And this is one of the dumber opinions I think we've read here. The way she writes is like a, well, it's bad. So I was going to, it's always insulting to say like a high schooler. It's like a lot of smart high school kids who would never write like this. Anyways, so we'll go through it and see what's going on. HUD is demanding answers, and Tom Homan was out talking about more. We have also got Rand Paul out, obliterating this dude, Mr. Pentagram himself, and saying, your little jab fetish, your little vaccine fetish is over. We're not doing that crap anymore. And of course, that was this dude. So we'll go through it. We've got him, and we've got a lot of reaction from the CDC. People got fired, and they all had this little protest last week. And so reaction to that from a bunch of different arenas, including from Maxine Waters. We've got Dr. Marty and others coming up, this fella, and then we'll round it out with Stephen Miller. And so we're jammed today, my friends. And we're very glad that you're here. And I'm just joking about Labor Day. I hope you're having a good day and enjoying it, recuperating and rejuvenating. And we're glad that you're here and with us. We also are going to have a members only after party today. So membos, stick around. We're doing an early show because it's pretty quiet out there. But then we'll be back tomorrow on our regular schedule. But membos, stick around today for the after party. Now there's that guy again. And we'll hang out. We'll see what's going on for the rest of your Labor Day. All right. So, and before we get into things, I wanted to just pause and say shout out to Rudy Giuliani. Apparently he was in a bad accident yesterday. So prayers up for him. Hopefully he recovers. Hurt in a crash. And it was a pretty serious one. Hospitalized. Fractured vertebrae. Multiple cuts and bruises, including injuries specifically to his left arm and lower leg after his rent-a-car was hit from behind. Yeah, so not good. They said that he was flagged down. He was actually on the side of the road helping a victim of domestic violence, got back in his car, and it was slammed. And he's currently recovering and in good spirits. He's in great spirits. He's a beast, said his team. He survived 9/11, and so shout out to Rudy. All right, so glad to hear he's on the mend. All right, so let's get into business. USAID, that Democrat superstructure, is now on its way out. Rubio posted this to celebrate a little Labor Day because, of course, our labor gets taxed and then it goes to these USAID people and it pays for their grift. Somebody's paying for that. Yeah, it's us. And now Rubio is responding to this. He says, I joked with President Trump that I had 4 jobs. We saw that during the cabinet meeting. Hilarious. He told me to give one to my friend, Russ Vought. So I did. One of the 4 jobs. Get it? Since January, we've saved the taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. And with a small set of core programs moved over to the State Department, USAID is officially in closeout mode, baby. And we love that phrase. What a nice statement that is. Close it out. Russ is now at the helm to oversee the closeout of an agency that long ago went off the rails. Congrats, Russ. Yeah, congrats, Russ. We're excited for you. What a nice promotion. And congratulations to Rubio, too. You now have 3 jobs, and an entire agency is in closeout mode. Good to see. He also said, since assuming office, Trump is committed to rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse from the U.S. government, saving American workers billions of dollars. Now, for the first time in 50 years, the president is using his authority under the Impoundment Control Act to deploy a pocket rescission, canceling $5 billion in foreign aid and international organization funding that violates the president's America First priorities. Among items being canceled are the following: $2.7 million for inclusive democracy programs in South Africa, whatever that means, $4 million for global LGBTQI awareness, and for the Global Labor Program, for global labor. None of these programs are in America's interest, which is why the president is taking decisive action to put America and Americans first. Thank you, Marco Rubio, for that. And there's an interesting, these are small numbers, like $4 million, that's peanuts compared to $5 billion. So it's just like hundreds, if not thousands, of these little programs. You get 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. No one looks, it's 2 million, 4 million. It's going to, awareness, whatever. And then you add it all up to $5 billion. Do you know how much money that is and how much we could do with that as a country? But instead, we're just funneling it out to other weird freak show organizations all across the planet, but not anymore. And so the rescissions have come down, and this is what it looked like. We covered this last week, but this is when Trump dropped it. He says, yeah, it's being rescinded, and I'm following the law. Impoundment Control Act of 1974, which is what they passed when they were very upset with Nixon when he was rescinding funds, or impounding funds rather. He says, I'm reporting The president, your favorite president, 15 rescissions of budget authority totaling $4.9 billion. The proposed rescissions affect programs at the Department of State and USAID, and it's now canceled. And so enjoy it. Now, Trump also submitted a response to this in the courts, explaining why this is not irreparable harm, why they're not entitled to money endlessly as government grifters. And we'll come back to it. But here is the reaction from the left. Very upset about this. Over from the Hill, they said, Trump tosses a grenade. All right, into the GOP shutdown battle with pocket rescissions. Pocket rescissions grenade. Yes, we're for them. Says here, President Trump's new effort is canceling more money, pocket rescissions. And look, here's a roundup of all the people screeching about it. Chuck Schumer, he said in a statement, Trump and congressional Republicans are hellbent on rejecting bipartisanship and going it alone this fall. All right. He says the country's staring down next month's funding deadline on September 30th. It's clear that neither Trump nor the Republicans have any plans to avoid an unnecessary shutdown. Susan Collins also came out. She was crying about it. She posted this over here. She said, somewhere, we're going to have that from Susan. Yeah, right here. She said, you know, Congress has received from the administration a $4.9 billion package of proposed rescissions of funding that have previously been appropriated, says Susan Collins. Given that this package was sent to Congress very close at the end of the fiscal year, when the funds are scheduled to expire, this is an apparent attempt to rescind appropriated funds without congressional approval. Now, the GAO has concluded that this type of rescission is unlawful. We don't think so. And we don't really care what the GAO has to say about it, because they're not running the country. They're not the president, all right? Trump is. Thank you, Susan. Says Article 1 of the Constitution makes clear that Congress has the responsibility for the power of the purse, says another constitutional illiterate. Yeah, that is true, but Congress, your branch, Susan, delegated all of that over. Well, actually, that's not true. They didn't delegate any of it over. This has been within the executive branch from the get-go. Let me be clear about that. This is the tension between the take care clause and the necessary and proper clause. Necessary and proper is the power of the purse. Appropriations. They didn't even have to delegate it. The take care clause says that you receive the money and then you take care to execute the law appropriately using the money that's properly appropriated to you. That's the tension. And if Congress doesn't like it, then they can impeach the president. It's how it's always been. Otherwise, Congress is also executing the law just by proxy. Well, you have to spend this money to do this thing. And then the president has to go and do that thing, even if it's against the interest of the country. That's an improper check on the Congress. And we are in a society, actually all societies are, where the elites materialize and matriculate up to the top. And our goal is to have them pitted against each other so that it's not a big love fest between the two. So that Congress just doesn't say, well, we're just going to pass billions. And then it goes over to Joe Biden. He's like, perfect, billions for AIDS doctors all over Africa, right? That's ridiculous. It's not in the interest of America. And so if you have somebody else who says, actually, to take care appropriately of the government of America, like you're obligated to do under the Constitution, that means not doing what they're doing. And their check is to impeach him if they want to do it. So she doesn't even understand those basic principles. And impeach him then. Any effort to rescind the funds is a clear violation of the law. So what are you going to do about it, Susan? Instead of this attempt to undermine the law, the appropriate way is to identify ways to reduce excessive spending through the bipartisan annual appropriations process. No, you guys go do that, okay? And you come up with something that is not unconstitutional or at least anti-American as it's interpreted by the duly elected president who runs the executive branch. Says any effort to rescind these funds is illegal. This month, we intend to mark this up. The annual funding bill is the most appropriate way to ensure that any rescissions reflect the views of Congress. Well, that's fine. Then go do it. Yeah, but go do it. But the president's not obligated to spend your money for anti-American things that aren't in the interest of taking care of America. That's his constitutional prerogative. And you don't get to force him to do the executive branch's job because you're not the president. All right, so now, this money is going over to these ridiculous organizations. And so again, One of the lawsuits that is happening right now is this one. In the District of Columbia, Global Health Council, and this was also the et al. So it was all the AIDS doctors and Africa AIDS, whatever, coalition for AIDS vaccines that don't exist. And we're going to advocate for AIDS vaccines. Well, they don't exist yet. Well, no, but we're going to advocate for them. Oh, great. And so you're in the medical industry and you deserve $1 billion to do it because you, like many other people, want an AIDS vaccine or something? Well, go do that on your own time. Go start a blog, which is essentially what this is. And so we've tried to identify what this organization actually does from their public-facing things. And they sued President Trump. This document is Trump's response to them, their opposition. They're saying, give us our money. Trump is responding saying to the court, we don't need to give them any money. And so we'll go through that in a second. But once again, who is this Global Health Council? We've covered this case a lot, and it's been a while since we've zoomed back in on them. And so I wanted to see, did they update their website? Did they do anything useful for us? Here it is, globalhealth.org. You go over here like, okay, look, I want to be a party to this. What are they doing? Join us. New, individual, professional membership. That is new. So here's what they do. Advocacy. They work across global health sectors. Access. They support partners in low and middle income countries, and they provide information, access to information. Wow. Okay. So they're not providing access to medical care, right? They're providing access to information and resources and expertise, just like a blog. Amplification. Oh, they're elevating critical global health messages. So almost like they're a media company or they're like a paid propagandist. So they get government money and then they go advocate for certain messages. That's interesting. Why do we need to pay them to do that? Kind of feels like we're funding a particular viewpoint with American taxpayer dollars. Not supposed to be doing that. So, and promoting the work of members and advocates. Okay, they can do that on their own time. I'm not opposed to them forming these little stupid organizations. They're free to do that, but they don't need $1 of our money to do it. Budget and appropriations. They ask for more money. Like this is their job. Activities related to the budget and appropriations for global health funding. So part of what they do is go lobby to get more money. Then they engage with a bunch of other people, global health security. They care about non-communicable diseases. Amazing. That says they come together to raise awareness. Again, they're not providing any goods and services. They're just raising awareness. It's meaningless. Health system strengthening and health equity and all the stuff. Okay, this is their website. And it's interesting. There has been some activity over here. We'll come back to that. But if you go over to their About Us page, nuked, not found, doesn't exist. So no About Us. Don't even know who's on the board or who leads this. What's our mission and our vision? Great. There it is. Little, somebody spit that out a while ago. Yeah, accountability, collaboration, equity. Got it. How about your annual report? And you've got this little, here's your annual report over here. Wow, here's your annual report. Okay, 2024 annual report. Here you go. You expect it to be what, like 5 pages? If it's like a pamphlet. If it's a report, you expect it to be like 90 pages. Probably good size for a report. How big is this one? Right there. That's it. There's their annual report. I guess that's it. Advocacy goes right back to their website. Here's some financials. Oh, they give us their financials. Let's take a look at their financials. Yeah. Okay. So here's an audit. So it's not their report. This is an audit. And total support and revenue, $1.5 million. End of year. So those are not huge numbers actually going to them. So they're one of the many organizations, right, that do this. So you can see. All right. So we got an audit. That's great. So no report. Their report is about 2 pages. There's nothing there. They don't do anything. Right. And if you go and you dig into it, I was also looking at their, I wonder what they're doing. Let me go look at their community events calendar. And I thought, wow, they've got activities. This is great. It's not their activities. These are other people's activities. They're just rounding them up. It's like they're like a news aggregator. They're not hosting the 3rd International Summit on Vaccines Research and Development. That's not their event. It's this group's event at Spectrum Conferences that's running this event, the ISVRD 2025. Get it? So it's like another shell company. It's like as legitimate as Hunter Biden's, paintings or whatever. And they're here and they are suing. They want their money back. This is the organization. They're one of many. They're one of dozens or hundreds or maybe thousands of fake in my opinion, companies that are set up to propagandize and steal our money and just go be lobbyists for the Democratic Party. So Trump is saying enough of it, all right? This is Trump's opposition to the Global Health Council and their request for their money. They say, all right, look, court, in vacating the requirement that the State Department and USAID pay the money, the DC Circuit Court of Appeals properly concluded, and we're going back now down to the lower level courts, concluded that they had not shown irreparable harm, right, to the cancellation of the funds. And now they fare no better in showing irreparable harm to sustain their motion for a TRO or summary judgment. In fact, their new declarations are assuming that we're not going to give them all of the money that is expiring, but that is incorrect. That's not what's happening. Rather, they say, of the $11.5 billion in pertinent expiring funds, Trump and the administration are advancing a multi-step process. So they're analyzing it. They are going to give out $6.5 billion gross, consistent with available authorities that they have to under the law, including notifications to Congress and negotiation with the responsible officials and more. Now, they have no irreparable harm from, and they have no need for any relief concerning those funds. Okay, so like a big portion of this, like you're going to get your money, you whiny babies. Here, take your $6.5 billion that you stole from us. And this is so interesting because it's always like the left right now, the current refrain is them screeching about how the Trump administration, right, how the American consumer is paying for tariffs, which I think is debatable. I think you could say that the margins in some of the foreign companies were so high because they were paying other countries tariffs that we weren't charging them, so they could just eat the cost and still complete the production of the goods in alignment with the cost curve that they need to have. But they keep screeching at us. Somebody's paying for that stuff. The American consumers paying for those tariffs. Like what? It's just a different mechanism of using incentives. Like we were paying for this. What's $6.5 billion going to these whack job AIDS doctors all across the country nobody cares about, except Democrats? It's a scam, and they were stealing it from us. At least with the tariffs, we're getting some leverage out of it. We're getting trade deals and negotiated resolutions and using it as leverage rather than just giving the money out. Anyways, there is a separate category now of approximately $4 billion in expiring funds that we're going to cancel. And we transmitted a message to Congress under the Impoundment Control Act proposing those funds for rescission. And the DC Circuit Court of Appeals made clear that these councils cannot obtain injunctive relief under the APA, which does not supply a cause of action when another statute precludes judicial review, which it does here. So in other words, you can't file here. The law says we set up an entire system, a court system. If you're upset about losing your government contract or your government money, we get it. I know it's a sob story. Everyone's going to die immediately. You need it. Okay, go over here and make your claim. You don't get to sue in a federal court. Article 3 court. Plaintiffs, nevertheless, now seek to reinstall the vacated injunction. They're just swapping their theory out. The Court of Appeals already sent it down. They seize on the DC Circuit's denial of their motion for a rehearing en banc when the panel amended its opinion because they basically said, remember, so Trump was trying to leapfrog them essentially to get them to answer. Then they came back, they mooted out the en banc. And so there's some weird procedural stuff going on. But now it's back down to the district court. And saying now they're just trying to swap the theory. Okay, the original circuit said that you can't do this. They're not required to give the funds out. Then the full panel just kind of changed it a little bit, sent it back down, and now we're re-arguing just a different kind of twisted point. Now, on that basis, they seek a proposed TRO, saying it doesn't require them to actually obligate the appropriations, but it's not, right? It's not, you can't force them to do it, but it's just taking preparatory steps. And they say, wait a minute, but that's not just for the $6.5 billion. They also want the $4 billion. Okay, so now they're trying to lop it into the total amount. But neither one of these funds are appropriately forced to be paid to them, says Trump. Now, as to the funds that we are going to pay or working on it, the steps that we are taking to reflect the opposite of agency decisions not to obligate the funds. So we're actually showing you we're going to give you the money, and you're still mad about it. And given that we're making our best efforts to meet the deadline, their late breaking, their claims that we're delaying this is also unfounded. Now, as to the funds described in the special message that was transmitted to Congress from Trump, despite their effort to paint this dispute about this provision of the law, their lengthy discussion is again premised on the ICA. And even if their understanding of this other law were correct, and it's not, the president's special message to Congress is legitimate. And under our view of the ICA, the Impoundment Control Act, those funds described in the special message would only be available for obligation if that period concludes without Congress passing a rescission bill, by which point the funds would have been expired anyways. And so they appear to disagree with that view. But the DC Circuit said that they can't use the APA to enforce that claim. And Trump submitted his message pursuant to the DC Circuit, and it was less than 45 days from September 30th. So even as to this other provision of the law, they're still not going to win on this either. That law provides no specific commands to provide specific funds on a specific timetable. It doesn't say we have to pay you this amount by this time or else. So it's ambiguity. And now they're asking for mandamus. They want you to force us to do something based on this weak provision of the law that doesn't even give them the power. And the remaining equitable factors also favor Trump. The DC Circuit Court of Appeals determined that the equitable balance supported the vacature, the elimination of the forced payments, and expedited issuance of the mandate. Now then, they furnished the court with nothing new to justify departing from the Court of Appeals. They say it's new, but it's not. And this is, of course, in the sensitive foreign policy context in which the president has maximum wingspan power, because that's his prerogative. The TRO and the preliminary injunction motion should be denied. And embedded summary judgment motion should be severed and also denied, courtesy of the Trump DOJ. So they zoom in for further detail on that. But you get the gist of it. They're saying the money is lawfully rescinded. They have no power to do it and to keep those funds obligated. And PBS, one of the agencies, not necessarily a part of USAID, but also on the chopping block with that federal government money. What are they doing with that money? Making 30-minute documentaries about the end of USAID. Oh no, they're losing everything. And then they go through, and it's all these, it's AIDS, everybody with AIDS. All the AIDS doctors in Africa, it's going to be all the doctors, USAID, yep, see, here you go. Everyone's going to die hospital. You're basically killing people, is what this guy looks like it says. Is that what this says? Yeah, baby cannot breathe. You just need it, and you need to resuscitate the baby. Babies are dying. This guy's listening to news. Everyone's dying around the world. We hope that they are doing well. I don't want suffering around the world at all. But I feel like the USAID people have been on this for a long time, and nothing's gotten better. In fact, things are dramatically worse in many ways. And I think their new ideology is not necessarily about like providing food to starving people in Africa, which is also a curious thing. It's like, why do we... Is that the game forever? Like, we're just going to keep providing food forever and ever and ever and ever? Or is there a way to build up their economy and their society so that they can deliver for themselves? You know, teach a man to fish kind of a thing. But anyways, the point here is that money was going over there. And I think really most of it was going to not food or resources or infrastructure, but mostly to lopping off genitals or encouraging people to do so. And now we've got the labor secretary on this Labor Day explaining the administration is tired of having our taxpayer dollars stolen from us, because that's all it is. You mix your time and your life, your energy with the world around you, and you create a good or service. So that's your life being transmuted into something. In exchange for that good or service, you get money. So when the government takes 40% of that or more, that's a theft of your life. And we're pretty tired of it, okay? And it's been something where we've had a lot of taxation really without any representation. And you might say, well, you've got your 435 representatives. That's still a pittance of the actual share of representation that the citizens during the founding era had. Why are we not entitled to that same slice of representation where it's 1 to 50,000 back then. Now it's 1 to 700, 800,000. So the point is, we want fiscal sanity because it's our livelihood that is being stolen from us, and the inflation is doing the same. Here's the labor secretary explaining, we're on it.
Well, what we're seeing is unemployment definitely holding steady, but we're seeing real wages up. We're seeing blue collar wages up 1.4%. Consumer confidence is up. I'm on my 50-state tour across this country. I've hit 32 states already, and I'm talking to the men and women who are on the ground every single day, trying to understand what they need assistance with. So some of the things that we've done, expansion of Pell Grants through the One Big Beautiful Bill, which will give access to so many people who had maybe a barrier to further education. The apprenticeship program. The president wants 1 million active apprentices. And so I'm on the ground talking to the trades, talking to the firefighters, talking to law enforcement. You know, I was just in New England on a 6-state swing in 4 days, talking to submarine shipyard builders. I mean, we're seeing people are excited about the investments that the president is making.
Yeah, because those are actually useful things, right? You're actually creating something, you're doing construction, building something, and using your hands to develop a good or service versus sitting around and working on your PhD thesis for transgender playwriting in Berkeley. We're not interested in that. That doesn't produce anything good for anybody other than your own freak enjoyment. And now the country is returning to some normalcy. USAID in closeout mode. We're happy to see it. What a nice Labor Day celebration. All those USAID people are going to have a lot of time to celebrate not laboring. All right, anyways. Let's continue on, my friends. We've got more business to attend to today, starting with sorority sisters, man. Sorority sisters busted. President Trump calling them out, explaining this is a total conflict of interest. The judge on this case must recuse immediately. President Donald J. Trump. And what is he talking about? Well, we know the background here between these two. Of course, Lisa Cook, I almost said of Cook, but of course, Lisa Cook is now somebody who is suing President Trump, saying, you can't fire me from my position. So what if I commit mortgage fraud multiple times on multiple properties? I'm above the law. I'm historic. Leave me alone. And I'm not going anywhere. Her lawsuit went against President Trump. And of course, we've covered that at length and read through it by Abby Lowell, the embarrassment, and reviewed it. But the case ended up in this judge's courtroom. An examination here is over at watcherfiles.com if you want to learn more about her. Judge Gia M. Cobb, appointed very recently by Joe Biden in 2021. And what's interesting about this relationship between the two is apparently they were sorority sisters. Delta Sigma Theta is now responding in defense of Lisa Cook. Delta Sigma Theta. Well, guess who also went there? Judge Gia Cobb. And we're going to be able to see that in her public judicial questionnaire, where she said she was a member of this organization. And Lisa Cook even went and gave a remark here saying that we're embracing the past. She went and spoke there at Delta Sigma Theta. And so we'll go through it, but here is what Trump was sharing from their post. Said, Dr. D. Lisa D. Cook was vetted, confirmed, and is uniquely qualified to serve on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Now, we're going to come back on that because this fella over here, Chris Brunette, says she's not qualified at all, actually. He got her tenure packet, and he gave us some highlights on this, and it's like, she is not recommended to be put back on anything of status, and so we'll put a pin in that one. But the statement said, undermining her role like Trump is doing, which he's not, she's the one who filled out fraudulent documents, is not just about one individual. It is a threat to the independence of the Federal Reserve. And Cheryl W. Turner, the international president, is commenting on our Federal Reserve and carries grave economic implications for families and communities. What? What is her qualification to even make that assessment? Who is this lady? Cheryl Turner? And is Delta Sigma Theta like some economic organization? It was created at Howard University. And is it an economics entity? I don't think so. Here's what it looks like. This is the sorority. Rosalind, Sadie, Cheryl Turner, Delta Sigma, about, what do they do? Public service, leadership. Let's see. National president. Let's see let's see who's on the National Executive Committee over here. National exec. Not a lot of diversity on this board. I'll tell you that. That's interesting. How come there's no Asian Americans on here or Indian Americans? Is this just an African American only exclusive group? That's interesting. Yeah, Delta Sigma's Incorporated. It's private, nonprofit organization whose purpose is to provide assistance and support to local communities. 10,000 members typically attend the sorority. And these are huge, right? These are huge organizations. All right. So here are the other founders. Kind of all look the same. It's like they just changed the hairstyles. Like it's kind of the same face on this person and this person. Anyways, and that's not a racial comment. It's just a painting comment. But this is, okay, so that's the organization. I don't really know what they do or what they stand for, but it's giant. And that's another point to make, right? It's a giant organization, but I don't know why they're qualified at all to talk about the Federal Reserve in any way, shape, or form, but okay. We also see a troubling pattern of efforts to discredit leaders and experts who are eminently qualified, which means black and woman, and prepared to lead and serve. Just to be clear, that's what that means. As a women's organization, so that's why there weren't any dudes on there, but I didn't see any trans dudes on there either. And a champion of justice, except trans justice, scholars, except maybe that one wasn't trans, I don't know. No need to go back though. Delta Sigma Theta unequivocally opposes any measures that silence black women, but not if they silence white women who just shut up, white chicks whose voices in leadership remain vital to the progress of the nation. I know, so historic and just champions of everything. We got it. Yes, so Delta Sigma Theta. And they're two peas in a pod, okay? Two black women now handling each other's cases over there in the DC circuit. And Judge Gia Cobb, right? So they're out Delta Sigma Theta in total support of Judge Gia Cobb. Guess who else went over there to the same sorority that apparently says, as part of the official status, that they're having a full-throated endorsement of Lisa Cook. This is Judge Michelle Cobb's now judicial questionnaire. And here, she's got her old place of employment. Wow, she went to Harvard, of course she did. At her employment, she worked for some other entities, was a public defender, Court of Appeals, Harvard Civil Rights Project, and Paul Weiss, Rifkin, and Wharton. We've seen a lot of them here. Then, teaching affiliations, went to Harvard. Let's see, where is the, nothing in there about Delta. Nothing in the military, honors and awards. JD from Harvard Law School, Heyman, Harvard Law Review. There it is. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, National Collegiate. Wow, she was a member of the year. She's like super sorority sister. Yeah, maybe the hot dog eating contest or something. I don't know. Bar associations. List all associations, criminal law, all the things. All right, so they're in the same sorority. And the sorority, of course, this goes on for 31 pages. The sorority, of course, is very against silencing the voices of historic black women. And so they're going to be working really hard to make sure that Lisa Cook, this judge, presumably, who shares this same ideology, is now going to be governing the case. Oh, isn't that interesting? And Lisa Cook, of course, went over there and she had an entire conversation giving a speech to the Board of Governors, to the Delta Sigma Theta from the Board of Governors, okay, while she was a member of the Board of Governors, Federal Reserve System. Went back and spoke to them. I recently came across a picture of myself in 7th grade, and she gives us a whole story about her, which is, very narcissistic. Like, all these people are here to listen to them talk, her talk about something. She talks about her mom, and then I can see the lessons in that photo, talks about a photo, and then goes on into something else that's mostly meaningless. All right, so you get the gist of that. Now there's more on Lisa Cook, because they kept telling us like she went to, Lisa Cook is not the judge, she's the other one. And she said that she's like a genius, right? She was like Oxford, like Stanford, all the places. Well, it turns out this fella, Chris Brunette, great report here, says exclusive. I obtained Lisa Cook's 85-page tenure packet via Freedom of Information Act request. It's heavily redacted, but here are the big takeaways on this puppy. Number one, Michigan states, where she was, Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve governor, likely voted against her having tenure, according to the documents. It's all redacted. But were overruled by the dean. This means she was not good enough for tenure at Michigan State based on merit, but she was a federal board person. She got her tenure despite her research record, not because of it. The tenure packet emphasizes her teaching ability and downplays her research because her research is terrible. She would not have gotten tenure without her now debunked paper, because she wrote a terrible paper. Her tenure packet lists her AER PNP as AER with an asterisk indicating that it is peer reviewed. She is lying about this paper being peer reviewed. It's not. And 5, every letter writer recognized her as an economic historian, not a macroeconomics economist or an international economist, which she self-proclaimed to be in Senate testimony. So her whole background and pedigree is fake. No one even likes her. Like, no tenure for her. And Dean's like, well, you don't want to be a bigot, do you? I guess not. So here you can see economics and social sciences, Lisa Cook, recommendation for reappointment or promotion. Look at all these redactions. So recommendation by the department chair, school director, recommendation by the dean, promote to assist to promote tenure. The dean put yes. And you can't see they redacted all of this, but boy, it looks like there's like an errant right there. You see that right there? What was that? Let's go back in there. It looks like somebody marked a box right there, but the redaction didn't get the full thing. See that? That little pixel right there. What row was that in? Oh, do not reappoint. Oh, so maybe that's the only one. That was clicked. So recommendation by the school director, do not reappoint. Dean's like, actually, yeah, we're going to reappoint her to associate professor and we're going to give her tenure, bigots. And that's the detail as far as we can tell. So great report over here from our friend Chris Brunette. We're going to repost this puppy at the top of our timeline so you can follow along and get more detail. And people are pointing this out, right? You see that aberrant pixel. Do not reappoint. And Hans, our friend who wrote Swift Boating America, a great book, says this is shockingly poor scholarship for someone granted tenure at a supposedly reputable university with barely one article every 2 years, and even those padded with think tank pieces over at Hoover. All right, so all these little things. What did she write? Now the hard part: trade, credit, and bank finance. Financing small firms in Russia. Right, all these little things. These are just, fake articles. You read it and you're like, all right. It's like ChatGPT, just spit them out. They just need them to pad it. It's like they're like bloggers who write just terrible blog posts that nobody would read anyways. They just title it and they put it in a volume. It's like, it's in a volume. What volume? Volume 46. Wow, you must be a scholar. And it's just nonsense. It's all largely masturbatory. So that's what's happening over there. And she's terrible. But of course, Biden shoved her right in there because historic and all the things. Now, Ro Khanna is even saying we should probably just release some of these records so that we can get our hands on exactly what's going on here, wrap our hands around this whole problem.
Alleging this is purely politics. But Congressman, let me ask you, do you think Lisa Cook should just release her mortgage documents to dispute these allegations against her?
Could be transparent, but this has nothing to do with the specifics of Lisa Cook. This has to do with Donald Trump following Richard Nixon's playbook to interfere with the Fed and bully the Fed. The irony is that
she's a mortgage fraudster. She has lost the confidence of the American people. It's not bullying. Maybe if she didn't commit fraud, none of this would be happening.
it's his own policies that have created the situation. If he just repealed the blanket tariffs, he wouldn't be putting the inflationary pressure that exists, and the Fed would be able to cut rates. But instead of listening,
that's not what's happening. And we had a little headline from Jerome Powell, not confirmed, it's a report of a report, that he's even admitting now that the tariffs are not causing the inflation they were expecting.
To every economic advisor who has said, don't just have these blanket tariffs, he's insisting on blanket tariffs. That's putting inflationary pressure and leaving the Fed in a no-win situation.
Well, given that argument, do you think Lisa Cook should just release her mortgage documents to put these allegations to rest? Would you advise her to do that?
Well, sure, she should release them. Yeah. She should be transparent so that we see that this is just a political football and really it's hiding an economic record. Look,
it's not a political football, Ro. We saw her response. She had an opportunity to be transparent about this and explain it. I mean, even Big Tish was more transparent. Even Big Tish sent in some emails. Abby Lowell, like cherry picked some emails. He's like, well, look, see, she said something somewhere else. And obviously, it doesn't really matter. It's what she signed on the document is what really is going to hold and govern. But what happened with Cook is she didn't want to explain herself at all. There was like one little word of clerical kind of somewhere, but not really. And it's largely just been, you don't have enough evidence to meet your hurdle. And if she's in a position of power, right, she doesn't have to be convicted of a crime in order for that to be for cause. The statute is very broad. For cause goes to the president. It's the president's cause. It's not political. We don't want corrupt fraudsters on the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve deserves scrutiny, just like everybody else. They're not above the law. It's an illegal organization in the first place. And now they're getting a fresh set of eyes. So we're happy to see it. And as it stands, the sorority sisters are busted, and Ro Khanna is saying, yep, release the records. Let's get some more transparency so we can see exactly what's going on between these two. But is Judge Gia Cobb going to recuse herself over a connection to Delta, Theta, Sigma, whatever it's called? I doubt it. The organization is huge, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who show up on cases that are in your courtroom assigned to that sorority. So she's probably just going to say, oh, it's nothing, it's meaningless, I'll be fair and impartial. And I would guess that she doesn't drop the case or recuse herself at all. But we can see the organization has a very strong, kind of solidarity bend to it. And we'll see how it plays out in her courtroom. We'll keep our eye on it. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, let's carry on because we got more with this judge. And Christy Gnome also in the house that got clipped from Christy. All right, we're good to go. Let's get to it. CBS News busted clipping out a key part of Christy Gnome's interview with them. And this is the moment when Christy Gnome was digging into the wife-beating illegal alien who human trafficked kids around and throughout our country called Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And Christy Gnome was talking to this fella, and so we're going to watch this together, but you'll see that there is an uncut response on the top, so we'll just listen to what she said, and you're going to see the cut on the bottom screen. That's what ultimately aired, okay? So it's going to cut right there. See that cut? Just so you know it's coming. Christy's about to go right here. Kilmar's a wife-beating, murderer, whatever she says, and then they cut it out. But here's what Christy said as she caught them. This morning, I joined CBS to report the facts about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Instead, CBS shamefully edited the interview to whitewash the truth about this MS-13 gang member and the threat he poses to the American public safety. Watch for the part of my interview that CBS tried to cover up from Christy Gnome Homeland Security.
And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States of America. This individual was a known human smuggler, a MS-13 gang member, an individual who was a wife beater, and someone who was so perverted that he solicited nude photos from minors. And even his fellow human traffickers told him to knock it off. He was so sick in what he was doing and how he was treating small children. So he needs to never be in the United States of America, and our administration is making sure we're doing all that we can to bring him to justice.
And they cut it all out and just shoved that other dude's question in there because they don't want their audience to know the truth about Kilmar. They have them so propagandized and brainwashed that to them, it's still just a Maryland man who's like a union worker who makes metal or something, right? All ridiculous. And Christy caught him. And I don't know how she got her hands on the original footage. Maybe they were recording on their end too, but very nice to see it because they're extremely dishonest. And imagine if this wasn't an illegal alien, like just swap that role. Say that was a January 6er, right? And they're on, you've got somebody on Jen Psaki's show or Rachel Maddow's show making up a bunch of fake lies about a J6er, which they did. And would they cut that stuff out at all? No, they were gratuitous with the J6ers. They were salivating. There was a bloodlust in their eyes coming out of there wherever, explaining how much they were satisfied with the raids. And I think we saw, like babies die, and we saw all sorts of horrific things from the raids. And they were just sitting around enjoying it. But Kristi Noem comes out. She says that an illegal alien is credibly accused by law enforcement officials of all of these things. They clip it out. They don't even want to share it with you because they're propaganda machines. And they'll just say, well, it's just standard editing. No. That was a key point. It's critical information for your audience to know the truth about this guy and why we are deporting him. It's because of those things. It's not an innocent Maryland man who's just trying to get a job at Home Depot or something, who are also illegal. Now, this is more. She said, Governor Pritzker, now Homeland is saying we're going to start just expanding the net. All right, so Kilmar's going. You can censor us if you want to, but that doesn't change the fact. And Governor Pritzker, PB&J up there, says is failing the people of Illinois. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has more murders than any other American city. And when I was governor and disagreed with the Biden administration, Christy says, I picked up the phone. I asked for meetings. I fought for my people. Instead, PB&J goes on TV and attacks our work to keep American families safe. Here's what Kristi Noem had to say about Pritzy.
Your response?
Well, for 13 consecutive years, Chicago had more murders than any other American city. In fact, just last year in 2024, they had 3 times the amount of murders that LA did, 5 times more than New York City. So he can talk about what a great job he's doing as governor, but he's failing those families who will no longer have their child with them, their mother or their father or their cousin, aunt, and uncle. That are gone forever because of the violence that's happening in Chicago. So I was a governor for many years. So I recognize the responsibilities that you have on your shoulder when you're a governor. And I'll tell you, as a governor, when I had to make tough decisions and when I had disagreements with the Biden administration or challenges my people were facing, I called up the Biden administration. I went and talked to them. I asked for meetings. I fought for my people. This seems like it's more about Governor Pritzker's ego now rather than actually protecting his people. If he has one murder in the city of Chicago, he should be calling President Trump and saying, what's your ideas? What can we do? They don't even honor our detainers in Chicago. They don't go out there and work with us to make sure we're bringing people to justice. And instead he goes on TV and he attacks me when we're doing exactly what those people need is they need someone to help them get the dangerous criminals off their streets. And if he has 1, 2, 5, or 10, those victims and their families deserve to walk in freedom on those streets and not have to worry about what's going to happen to them on their way to their jobs.
Yeah, and that's, if anything, one of the primary functions of the government is to make sure you don't get murdered walking down the street. And if they can't create that baseline, what are they delivering, honestly? It's kind of the standard starting point. But Christy is an actual leader. And so, of course, that's why she called and said, I'm asking and demanding some updates and some progress on this. whereas PB&J, I think he's eating less PB&Js out there because he's running for president. But we've got a lot happening behind the scenes too. So we got Kilmar in active deportation, but we've got this one judge is back, Judge Gia Cobb, who is the sorority sister to Lisa Cook, and now governing another Trump case as the president, issued one of the most ridiculous orders that we've seen recently, saying that foreigners now must be afforded due process, which they've already been afforded. She just doesn't think it's good enough. And the way she wrote this opinion is pathetic, as we'll read in a second. But Trump called her out. He said, this is the same judge as on the federal circuit case, on the federal Cook case. I wonder how that happened. She must recuse herself from this one as well. And the headline on this opinion, this order that we're going to read from her, is she is preventing fast-track deportations from President Trump. And so let's get into it, because here is what she wrote down. We'll hit the highlights. This is the case of Make the Road New York versus Kristi Gnome. Coming from Judge Gia Cobb. Says, for nearly 3 decades, the federal government has subjected non-citizens apprehended at the border to fast-paced summary removal. Oh, 3 decades. Using that procedure, these people are quickly turned back across the border, typically after a single conversation with an immigration officer. Apprehended at the border. Come in. Do you have paperwork? No? Get out. This process is known as expedited removal, has long been applied to non-citizens who are apprehended immediately proximate to the land border and who have negligible ties or equities in the United States. Come to the border. Do you have papers? No? Then go home. What are you doing here? Turn around. Now, recently, the government departed from this long-standing practice, they say. In January, the government expanded the scope of this to include non-citizens apprehended anywhere in the United States. If you can turn them around at the border because they don't have paperwork, why can't you turn them around 5 miles inside the border, or 10 miles inside the border, or 100 or 1,000 miles inside the border? It's an illegal person. So they just said, yeah, if we can kick him out right there, expedited removal for that geographic limitation, we'll just expand that. And we've got authority for this here. If they're 1 inch inside the U.S., great, we'll remove them. Now, in the last few months, the government has made aggressive use, which is what she's very unhappy about. They don't like the use. They're allowed to do it, but you're just doing it too aggressively. It's like, okay, we're running a race. We're in a race together. Okay, whoever's the fastest wins. But you run too fast. We can't win in a race against you. So you have to like shackle this person down. You're too fast. You run too quickly. Saying this is ridiculous. This is a newly expanded power. When people have appeared in immigration courts for their normally paced immigration proceedings, which are slow as hell because they're all trying to delay it until after Trump leaves, the government has moved to dismiss those proceedings. Just say, actually, we're not going to prosecute you according to this old way. We're just going to arrest you and just kick you right out of court much faster, much less procedurally robust expedited removal proceedings. Same standards. Do you have the paperwork? No? All right, great. If you were just coming across the border, then we would say you don't have the paperwork, so you're going to go. You can't, you're little, like good to go away. Days later, these people find themselves removed. Now, the problem, though, writes this judge, is that unlike the group of people who have traditionally been subject to expedited removal at the border, those detained at or near the border right after they cross, if they're physically in the United States, the group of people the government is now subjecting to expedited removal have long since entered our country. So as long as you are breaking the law for a longer period of time, you get more due process, is according to this judge. This means that they have a weighty, it's a good word for this judge, liberty interest in remaining here, and therefore must be afforded due process under the Fifth Amendment. Yeah. It is a weighty interest, isn't it, Judge? Yeah. When it exponentially expanded the population, the government did not, however, in any way adapt its procedures to this group of new people. And this group of new people, like, she's going to do everything she can, I guess, to not call it a class. Let's see where this goes. But when it comes to people living in the interior of the country, as long as you can break in and like just get inside, you're good. It's like a safe zone. Just get to Chicago and they can't come get you. Prioritizing speed over all else will lead the government to erroneously remove people. And they can all file their claims, right, for habeas in their place of confinement. So there is a safety valve for them on that. That is because most non-citizens living in the interior have been here longer than 2 years. I guess we'll need a citation needed on that one. But rendering them ineligible for expedited removal. And many are seeking asylum in another form of immigration relief, entitling them to further process before they can be removed. Yeah, but that's based on the government's prosecution. So if they decide we're not going to prosecute this immigration case this way, we'll just prosecute it this way, that's their prerogative. The fact that you don't like that, like this happens all the time. Prosecutors file a criminal complaint against somebody, then they go and get an indictment. They are pursuing two different avenues at different junctures. It's procedure. And there's a lot of rules around it. So that's all they're doing. Now, they're unhappy that they're doing it aggressively. She doesn't like that they're doing it. Doesn't mean they can't do it. She just doesn't like how it's happening. And the procedures the government uses create a significant risk that it will not identify these disqualifying criteria before quickly removing somebody. And the lack of available review means that once removal happens, it's too late. Yeah, once you're gone, you're gone. Now, in defending this skimpy process, this is this judge, okay? This is what I'm talking about. Skimpy? She's writing like, Ketanji. Did Ketanji go to that same sorority? The government makes a truly startling argument. What is it? That those who entered the country illegally are entitled to no process under the First and Fifth Amendment. They never made that argument, you weird judge. They've always just said it's related to the context. There is a process, and they're all getting it, but instead must accept whatever grace Congress affords them. What? Were that right, not only non-citizens, but everyone would be at risk. Okay, so yes, if they come for the illegals, suddenly you as an American citizen are going to get deported. The government could accuse you of entering unlawfully, relegate you to a bare bones proceeding where it would prove your unlawful entry and then immediately remove you. She's absolutely crazy. Like, this is crazy talk. Is she talking about like what FDR did to the Japanese Americans? That was reprehensible and offensive, because that was their party. That was the Democratic Party when they did that. And a lot of that has been repudiated, but you know, not like concretely. Maybe it's concretely as it should. But is that what she's suggesting? Like that Trump is going to intern or something a bunch of Americans like FDR did or like Joe Biden did with his lockdowns and mandates? By merely accusing you of entering unlawfully, the government would deprive you of any meaningful opportunity to disprove. This is all just straw man. You know, I don't even know what she's talking about. Fortunately, that's not the law. She says, the Constitution says no person shall be removed from the United States without opportunity at some time to be heard. Now, that is equally true of those here unlawfully. Yeah, they have an opportunity. They can all file habeas petitions. It's not even a question. Go do it. ACLU does it for a lot of them. Says plaintiff Make the Road, so it's not even an illegal, it's some illegal alien organization called Make the Road, has made a strong showing that the government's expansion of expedited removal violates the due process rights of the illegal aliens. So too has the organization demonstrated that their illegal members will be irreparably harmed if the designation and guidance effectuating the expansion are not stayed. Because the public interest and equities also favor, okay, because she thinks it's good public policy. She's not the president. She says the court is going to grant the stay because it's good public policy. In so holding, the court does not cast doubt on the constitutionality of the expedited removal statute. Okay, this is insane. We have one of the dumbest judges that I think we've read here. Says, nor on its long-standing application at the border. Okay, so this sentence says, the expedited removal statute is constitutional, not even casting doubt on it. And I'm not even upset about its application at the border. It merely holds, this judge, that applying the statute to a, quote, huge group of people, which would be a class, living in the interior country who have not previously been subject to removal, the government must afford them due process, which they all are getting anyways. The procedures currently in place fall short. So she's just crazy. It's like she's admitting there's really no explanation for it. It must afford them due process, but they are, and they're following the statute, right? She's not saying that the statute's constitutional, and the removal process is constitutional. It's long been going on, but I just don't like how you're using it. And so the way you're using it means the procedures are bad. But the procedures are already defined in the law, and they're already following it. And you just admitted that it's not unconstitutional. All right, she's a federal judge. Yeah, and you get it. So in another case, the government their recent expansion of removal, this court detailed the framework. And okay, all the law, the background framework. So this is her filler stuff because she needs to, eat some time. So then we got some background. Homeland came in, said, you're getting these people. Plaintiff Make the Road. Who are these people? Nonprofit, membership-based community organization in New York. Wow. And they offer education, legal, health, and community services to low-income and immigrant New Yorkers. And their mission is, in our opinion, to bring in illegals. Now, their members include non-citizens who have been in the country for 14 days to 2 years. And all of these organizations should be just investigated for facilitating an invasion of our country. It's ridiculous. 2 such members who are newly subject to the expedited removal have submitted pseudonymous declarations. So the illegals also just can make up documents because nobody knows who they are. John Doe comes in, submits something. She's currently in this one. Jane Doe also came in. Yeah, oh yeah, her and her partner also. They fled persecution from government-aligned gangs. I know, probably had a pupusa factory too. And this guy, he has, quote, tried to do everything correctly here, but now he's at risk of being put into expedited removal. You didn't do everything correctly here because you broke into the country illegally, amigo. You can't do that. Her family has similarly tried to do everything correctly. They've tried. They applied for asylum within their first year, have got authorization, have attended their appointments and all the things, but she remains at risk of being placed into expedited removal. And so we don't even know what that risk is. It sounds like she's kind of in the process. So I guess, theoretically they could reverse it, but who knows if they would do that for her specific context. So in other words, she's kind of making it up, right? She's a very sympathetic person because she's done all these things. But then would they ultimately remove her? Don't know. But the risk of being removed is enough for the court to come in and issue a stay so that they can't remove anybody because she's scared that they might come after her, even though there's been no indication that has will occur to her specifically. And if it does occur to her specifically, she as an individual can go make a claim, okay, and file a habeas petition, and we can hear her claim in that court. But you don't get to just come in here and say, well, my hypothetical might happen to me and my hypothetical might happen to other people. And so now we need a nationwide injunction against the president because of my prospective fears. Saying here, she also is going to lose her opportunity. Guess what? She has an opportunity. She just files a petition for a writ of habeas corpus wherever she's being detained. And so Make the Road also has other members who are also freaked that they're going to get deported. Mary and John, they also filed this suit as well. Now, they amended their complaint. They sued Christy, Gnome, and a bunch of others. The government moved to dismiss the complaint. And now Make the Road is advancing 4 claims. Bunch of claims here. And she says they're going to win. Before turning to the likelihood of their winning, let me say here, Make the Road has not challenged the constitutionality of the statute. Statute's constitutional. Nor has it challenged the lawfulness of agency decision implementing the statute prior to 2025. Okay, so the laws are fine. Nothing in the court's opinions, they're not even challenging that Trump is using an illegal law. says nothing in this opinion then affects previous designations at all. And as long as it's within 100 miles of the border, okay, who are detained within 14 days and arriving within 100 miles of the border. And that's interesting. It's like, why did she pick that date, time range, and that mile range? The only things challenged are the 2025 designation implementing this designation. The court therefore addresses the lawfulness of applying expedited removal if it's beyond 100 miles or if it goes all the way up to 2 years. And saying, so in addressing these agency actions, I need to know if there was proper due process. And they can sue. She says, well, they all sue, they can all be here and sue. But this violates due process. Okay, so here's what she says. This is kind of the meat and potatoes. The Fifth Amendment guarantees no person shall be deprived life, liberty, and property without due process of law. And it's a two-part inquiry. And so individuals who come across the border have due process rights. In fact, we're not even arguing that. We've always said, yeah, they have due process. They get due process. You don't just shoot them in the head at the border. Okay, that would be like no due process. You show up at the border, you just get shot, which I'm not encouraging or endorsing at all. But that would be no due process, right? Nope, you're dead. Our border's locked. It's secure. Don't come. You're dead. I don't care what your arguments are. I don't care if you're a citizen. I don't care. You're dead. Don't come to the border. You're dead, right? That would be like no due process. That's obviously not happening. So they come. The fact that they get checked, that's a process. Somebody said, do you have paperwork? No. Okay, well, then you can't come. You're going to be removed out of here. Do you have a claim? You want to make a claim? You want to call a lawyer? You want to file a petition? You got some other documents? Well, go do it. You've got an opportunity to file that, but you're going away like now, right? The Supreme Court has long held that no person shall be, and it's like a matter of scale. And the 2025 designation plainly says that if you passed through our gates, then you're subject to expedited removal. Now, under the previous regime, only those, okay, so these are regulations. So like, these are regs. These are not laws. These are not statutes. You've got the Constitution, which is the law of the land, supreme law. You can change it by amendments, which is a hard thing to do. Then Congress can pass statutes. From the statutes, then the agencies will write regulations on how to interpret those statutes. So the regs can change. And in practice, the old regs says a close and spatial temporal nexus to the border. And in practice, what that meant is it was immediately proximate to the border. And there was a close spatial temporal nexus to this. But then Trump came around and he said, actually, we just don't think that's the right interpretation. And the threshold is much different. And so it's actually much bigger. And the government is trying to wave away this conclusion, saying that it's too big of an expansion, but the court is not going to deviate from the old principle, saying that we need close proximity. And the country's interior means, I guess, the further in you get, the more constitutional power and privilege you get. Now, the government says that they want to justify its harsh rule, saying, well, there's binding precedent here. And the judge says no. And so the court therefore rejects the government's request to treat as falling outside of the Constitution's due process guarantee the millions of immigrants who, although they may have entered unlawfully, have established lives here, okay, and made this country home. It's just crazy. That's not a legal argument. The due process guarantees millions of illegals who have just established a life here and made the country home, I guess, due process against removal. Because those subjects are entitled to due process, we then ask, what are the procedures that you actually use? And she talks about a weighty private interest is at stake, and we definitely know she's familiar with weighty things. Make the Road has identified procedural inaccuracies. They got to ask questions. So look, here they're even admitting it. Before removing, the government must make two threshold determinations. Was the individual has been present in the continually present in for 2 years, previously admitted or paroled, inadmissible on other grounds? If they find that they're not satisfied, they can utilize 240 proceedings or not remove the person at all. And so they say, okay, a lot of procedural mumbo jumbo. Credible fear interviews, we get the point. She's saying they're not doing enough to make sure these illegals are coddled. Make sure that they get red carpets, ACLU lawyers, and hotel rooms and cell phones. And so the judge, you get the point of it. So let's see how she concludes on this, saying the balance of the equities now favor a stay. Says the government wants to enforce the law, but the illegals want to stay in our country, and she's very sympathetic to their weighty interests. And so all four factors mean that Trump's stay is going to be in effect, 14-day administrative stay, and so their request is granted, and everything is stayed so that Trump cannot do expedited removals of illegal aliens in America. Signed by Judge Gia M. Corn on the Cobb, United States District Judge over there in D.C. And this is a pretty embarrassing decision. I mean, it's basically skimpy, weighty, huge group of people. She writes like a child and makes her arguments the same, essentially, that the law's fine, Constitution's fine, and you can remove people. There's kind of regulations that say proximity and time and those things, but now that you're using them aggressively, I'm going to do what I can to stop you. And of course, Trump will appeal this. Now, the other agencies are digging into this, and this was a good one. Scott Turner over at HUD said, okay, well, if we can't remove you from the interior, we're just going to cancel your housing. So get out. Says here, today the U.S. Department of Housing is taking another direct and forceful action to steward taxpayer dollars wisely. Within 30 days of receipt of this notice, HUD is requesting that every public housing authority provide a full and comprehensive countings of who is getting this money. We want names, mailing address, number of bedrooms, cost of the unit, proof of American citizenship or eligible immigration status, and it's required by a law, and you're going to give it to us. No longer will illegal aliens be able to leave citizenship boxes blank or take advantage of HUD-funded housing, riding the coattails of hardworking American citizens. Currently, HUD only serves out one of 4 eligible families due in part to the lack of enforcement provision. Because illegal aliens are stealing our housing, HUD will leverage all available enforcement actions against entities who do not comply with their request for citizenship information, but not limited to examination of whether you're going to get that money. We look forward to receiving the requested information without delay. Sincerely, Scott Turner, Secretary, HUD. Good updates there. No houses for you. Now, here's another one, because Tom Homan, the border czar, is out, and he's explaining that Gavi, who has created a sanctuary city and state, essentially, so that they can have a one-party unitary rule of democratic communists, he says Gavin is failing his people.
Gavin Newsom is an embarrassment to the position he holds.
True.
Hard stop.
Yeah.
If he had an ounce of integrity, he would be calling President Trump and thanking President Trump for making LA safer.
He won't.
He'd be calling the head of ICE and thanking them for the thousands of criminals, public safety threats they've taken off the streets of California.
He won't.
He'd be calling Secretary Gnome and thanking her. If he had an ounce, if the data proves
maybe he'll call her.
Anybody can look at the data who we've arrested in California. He ought to be thanking us. So Governor Newsom he's an embarrassment. It's the position he holds, and you know. He's trying to be relevant, apparently, whatever. But we're going to be in LA today. We're going to be in LA tomorrow. We're going to be in every California city. We'll be in San Diego. I was in San Diego, Seattle, Portland last week, meeting with the men and women at ICE to understand the hate being pushed against them, letting them know that the president has their 6. I have their 6. They're going to keep doing the job without apology. So Governor Newsom can stand by and watch President Trump make California safe.
Yeah, punk, Gavin. We want American citizens in America, and illegal aliens must go. And we're happy to see some developments on that. We're going to keep our eye on this giant judge over here and see if the appeal comes down, and we're sure it will. So we'll keep our eye on it, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, one more update on the day, and then we're going to hear from you and see what you say about all of this and more. And actually, there was just a new development on this, too. I saw Trump posted about these jabs. And let's see. No, how come that didn't bookmark for me? Yeah, let's see. All right, so I'm going over to Truth. Apologies here. A little bit of a audible from the president. See what he said, because he just posted about the jabs today. Moments ago. And yes, okay, so here it is. From the president. Good stuff. All right, here we go. Rand Paul goes after the fired CDC freak shows, saying there is no medical reason in response to this guy who just got obliterated out of the CDC, rightfully so. I don't even know what took so long. But he's responding to him. He's saying, you know what? There is no medical reason from Rand Paul, a doctor, to give newborns the Hep B vaccine if the mother is not infected. All mothers who deliver in a hospital are tested. This scientist's so-called, quotes, fetish for vaccines is not supported by the data. Rand Paul's a doctor, and this is not medical advice. Consult your doctor, but we like Rand and trust him. Chief Nerd is also sharing this. Okay, this is the clip of this fella, and if you remember, sorry to do this, but it's true. This guy was in the government. Here is posted from Will Kane. This fella says pentagrams, harnesses, the belief that men can get pregnant. This guy's gone from the CDC. Yeah, we think medicine's a little bit better off today than it has been. And now he's gone. But now he puts on a suit and he's like, no, look, I'm a real sophisticated person here. And I want to talk about jabs.
I mean, from my vantage point as a doctor who's taken the Hippocratic Oath, I only see harm coming. I may be wrong, but based on what I'm seeing, based on what I've heard with the new members of the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, or ACIP, they're really moving in an ideologic direction where they want to see the undoing of vaccination. They do want to see the undoing of mRNA vaccination. They have a very specific target on COVID, but I do fear that they have other things that they are going to be working on. Hepatitis B vaccine is on the agenda for the meeting in September. I predict that what they're going to do is try to change the birth dose of hepatitis B vaccine so that kids don't get it when they're born. So if you have a mother who is well connected to care, you know her hepatitis B status, that may not matter very much. But if you have a mother who's not gone to prenatal care, who comes in to deliver, we have one bite at that apple so that child gets that important hepatitis B vaccine.
And they want, man, as soon as that baby comes out, like, put it in there, vitamin K, whatever. Here, you need it. Yeah. Shove stuff into your newborn. Rand Paul says, that's not scientists' analysis. This is a fetish for vaccines. And we know he's already got other fetishes. But Trump is out also asking questions about this. And this was a curious update from the president himself, because Trump had been a big proponent of Operation Warp Speed, as we recall. Now, I don't recall Trump saying that you had to mandate it and shove it into your body, or else you're going to die a winter of misery and death like the Biden administration did. And if you want to develop a program and see if it works, kind of like the nuclear bomb program, the Manhattan Project, right? Like, you know, really have the government do something. I'm for the government trying things, but I'm not for the government censoring us, lying to us, telling us that they're the scientists, and then lecturing everybody, mandating, suppressing information, alternative theories, clamping down on drugs, stopping people from tinkering and figuring out their own solutions. It was all a disaster. And now we want a reflection on this. And one of our biggest concerns has been that we just move past COVID without any repercussions at all. Fauci gets a pardon and there's like, that's the end of the whole story? Are you kidding? Trump says, let's look into it. He writes, it is very important that the drug companies justify the success of their various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that save millions of lives. Others disagree. With CDC being ripped apart over this question, I want the answer, and I want it now. I have been shown information from Pfizer and others that is extraordinary, but they never seem to show those results to the public. Why not? They go off to the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the CDC, trying to figure out the success or failure of the drug companies in their COVID work. show me great numbers and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. I want to show them now to the CDC and the public and clear up this mess one way or the other. I hope Operation Warp Speed was brilliant. Quote, as many say it was. If not, we all want to know about it and why. Thank you for your attention to this very important matter, President Trump. And that's what we want too. And of course, I've experienced both sides of this debate. I remember back during COVID, I talked to a doctor who was processing COVID deaths. And he told me, he's like, after the jabs came out, COVID deaths went down, right? Is what he said. So his position is they saved lives. But maybe those were the lives of people who really needed it, right? They were the high risk category and it's a subset of the population. And you don't need to give that to every single healthy person, including children, and mandate it or else. Okay, so there's, I think, multiple ways to splice this, but we want the truth. We want to know what the answer is because a lot of people are noticing some very serious complexities to it. And a lot of people who are helping people, doctors and businesses are popping up to help people detoxify themselves from all the damage they did from the injections. So we're happy to see some answers on this. And we want repercussions on this, man, because this was the, domestic 9/11 apparatus restructuring of the entire American government to oppose the American people in many, many ways. And so there needs to be accountability for it, just like everything else. And here is more. So we got that guy. He was doing his little talk. Don't need to listen to him again. And of course, there's more reaction to this guy. So he is freaked out that parents might have a say in whether they jab their kids or not. He posted this over from this week, this fella. He is a former Obama-era CDC director. Okay, this guy, Dr. Besser. And the quote in this, it's 2 minutes. Let's see if we can grab it. I think with this secretary, RFK, we're on a path to vaccines being largely parental choice. And that's a major step backwards for public health because they want the doctors who are much better and smarter than the parents to decide what to do. Put this in your body, learn about this stuff, chop your genitals off, whatever.
For 4 years. They wanted to make sure someone was in that seat in the event there was a public health emergency. And there was. There was the H1N1 swine flu pandemic. We now have as an acting director someone with absolutely no public health experience, and that puts us all at incredible risk.
And Dr. Besser, I want to ask you one thing about mandates. It's one of the things that Secretary Kennedy said this week and touted progress that he's made. He said he ended the mandates. Why do you think mandates are important?
Because people are idiots and I'm smarter than you.
Well, when I think about mandates, I think about children going to school. I think about young parents who are sending their children to school and want to know that their children are safe. And the way children are safe from vaccine-preventable diseases is by getting vaccinated themselves, but no vaccine is 100%. And so you count on the other children in that classroom being vaccinated.
So it's all or nothing, right? If you want to go shoot your kid up with 50 things, go for it. Have a field day. But it doesn't work unless you do it too. What? Then why are you doing it, you weird freakos?
I think with this secretary, we are on a path to it being largely parental choice. And that is going to put at risk those people for whom the vaccine didn't work and children who may have medical conditions where they can't get vaccinated.
Yeah, terrible. You absolutely, and other kids can't get it, right? So then they can't get the vaccine. So everybody else has to get it. You don't make special accommodations for that one child. And maybe that child goes to special schooling or gets tutored or something like that and has a special unique condition. But no, instead, everybody in the whole population has to go buy this pharmaceutical drug and shove it into their bodies without any real rhyme or reason if they don't need it or anything, because they just say it's good enough, trust the science, and you have no say in what you put into your kids' bodies, okay? It's just a mandate, so just take it because the government's in charge. These people are maniacs, man. It's demonic. Don't you even think about mandating something for our children, okay? We're tired of that. So that is now changing. And here is another one from Callie Means. You know who he is. He says, this is really bizarre stuff, okay? Orwellian propaganda garbage. The New York Times posted this story. Will the CDC survive? Yeah, okay. And honestly, it's like, I'm sure there is some good work that's done there, but I think largely they are another government bureaucracy that says they are doing something meaningful that they're really not. Okay, a bunch of other private entities and other solutions could exist for whatever the CDC does. And the way we know this is because we just had the Super Bowl for the CDC. Okay, we had the Super Bowl in 2020. They needed to show up and play and put it all out there, leave it on the field. They didn't do that at all. It was pathetic. It looked like a circus freak show out there on the field. All these CDC morons running around, bopping into each other, bringing golf clubs and stuff onto the football field. What are you guys doing, idiots? And it was a disaster. And now they want to turn around and say, but we're a credible agency and you should trust us now. And we need more government funding and all the things. I mean, I think in a sane country, you just say, okay, that was horrible. Like, we're not playing with this. Like, you're just gone. Whole CDC is gone. We need a new entity. Come in here, because they promised us like a military level response, first world response to all this. And they couldn't even friggin' print out masks that didn't work and couldn't get hand sanitizer or toilet paper for people's butts all across America. So he says, give me a break, okay? This is Orwellian, Soviet level propaganda. He says it's truly bizarro world stuff. President Trump and RFK are quite literally fighting demonic forces to return the CDC to the real science. The media is holding up Dr. Pentagram at the paradigm of science, as the paradigm of science. This man is a proud Satanist who evangelizes a bondage fetish that it thinks it's antiquated. I gotta figure out how to read again. Think it's antiquated to use the word mother, and argues every 6-month-old should be forced by the government to receive a COVID jab. I'm not trying to be inflammatory. This is a simple factual recitation of the qualifications for the media's lead scientific expert today. And they bring him around on the cable. They're like, well, should we bring the pentagram guy back on? Like, yeah, definitely. He's our good dude. So Dr. Pentagram is the type of anti-scientific radical who has destroyed the reputation of the CDC, and President Trump was overwhelmingly elected to get out. President Trump and RFK are fighting for science. The media will not be able to find one NIH researcher or academic in America who could say this administration is pressuring them for scientific findings, as the previous administrations did. In fact, if the media is honest, they would report that there is a groundswell of academic freedom happening in America. While previous CDC officials pressured staff to not release data that contradicts the preferred narrative, we will not see transparency, even if it is messy. That is returning the CDC to science, not attacking it. And I think maybe we will see transparency, even if it is messy. Yeah, I know there are many employees at the CDC who agree with the agenda to restore science, and this administration will win. From Cali means working over there with the Trump administration, as we know. Now, Maxine Waters was also out. She's going nuts, being extra Maxine today. Here's what she was screaming about over on the cables.
It is time to call for Article 25 of the Constitution of the United States of America to determine his unfitness, to determine that something's wrong with this president. And I would suggest that we move very aggressively to talk about the danger to this country and to our democracy.
Well,
so Article 25, is that new? I don't think I saw that in there. Article 25, that's it's a new one for us, but all right. Now, we also see here is this fella. He is another doctor, Dr. Marty Makary. He's ripping all these people. He says they just made up everything, okay? They made up 6 feet. They made up 2 weeks. They made it up. And now they're lecturing all of us about science.
The woke world has exploded. I mean,
that with 20,000 employees could not generate a website to track the COVID virus. It was eventually created by one Johns Hopkins grad student. He created a COVID website that the world used. And it's not just 1 or 2 mishaps at the CDC. Culturally, operationally, scientifically, they've lost their mission. They propagate dogma. They pushed cloth masks on
Yes.
toddlers
Yes.
for 3 years. They insisted schools shut out children for nearly 2 years using a phony pseudoscience document that the teachers union edited, and those edits appeared in the final document. They made up 6 feet. They pushed vaccine boosters in young, healthy people. So the CDC needs a realignment, and it needs an extremely strong leader.
Well, the other thing they did, and you and I were talking about it at the time during the height of the pandemic, they seemed to be cooking the statistics. I mean, making it appear as though there were no ill effects of the vaccine, that it was a 100% successful vaccine, 100% effective. And of course, you mentioned the children. I mean, the fact that the adverse consequences of children taking the vaccine were higher than the possibility of serious illness among those same children.
Yeah, David, it became extremely partisan in the last administration. In the Biden administration, the ACIP committee and the CDC fired Martin Kulldorff, who was a leading Harvard epidemiologist and vaccine expert. And that was the sort of scientific intolerance that has marked the culture of the CDC in the last 4 years. And that's why public trust is low. They ignored natural immunity. They came up with their own sham studies and published it in their own medical journal that had no peer review. So it's time to rebuild public trust. And the way we do that as healthcare leaders is to show some humility and to invite a civil discourse. And that's what we're seeing right now as part of the new leadership strategy in this administration.
Man, nice little trip down memory lane there from that fella and all the horrific things that they did to us. And remember, Joe Biden came out and gave us that Gates of Hell speech. This is going to be a winter of misery and death unless you go buy these pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Simone Gold, who's been on this story for a long time, shared this message over from this fella too. Florida Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo. He's saying the CDC is like a bunch of scientific cultists.
So I think it was yesterday, there was this rally, if you will, with a bunch of CDC employees leaving their office and going to support these leaders that have resigned. And, I listened to what they had to say. And there's this cultish relationship with vaccines, and this leadership is just unable to object.
Yeah, they can't understand that CDC should be about science. And so appreciate that guy. We also have this guy from Stephen Miller. Here's what Stephen Miller had to say about this. Defending RFK, defending the changes at the CDC from the lawn of the White House.
Okay, so how confident is the White House that you can permanently nominate a CDC director that sort of balances the vaccine stance of Kennedy with someone that could pass the Senate?
Well, as we know, so we'll find an incredible nominee. I'm not worried about that at all. But it's a good opportunity to talk about the CDC issue more broadly. As we know, the CDC's credibility was shattered during the COVID era. This is now widely understood and widely acknowledged. And CDC used to be, of course, seen widely around the world as a premier health agency. And much of the world discovered in the last few years that CDC was actually staffed by a lot of very partisan and very political bureaucrats who weren't at all concerned about public health and weren't actually very knowledgeable about public health. And we are working hard. And more importantly, Secretary Kennedy, one of the world's foremost voices, advocates, and experts on public health, is working hard to restore the credibility and the integrity of CDC as a scientific organization committed to the scientific method and getting to the root causes of the public health epidemic in this country. There's one chronic illness after another where we have seen incidences and rates in the Western world in general, in America in particular, skyrocket over recent decades and years, both childhood illnesses and adult illnesses. And we know that the drivers of these chronic illnesses are things that can be explained both through environmental factors, both through pharmacological factors, as well as other things that impact public health and well-being. But there has been no serious effort until Secretary Kennedy came along to deal with these systemic root drivers of chronic health. And it's an honor to be able to work with Secretary Kennedy as he tackles these issues on behalf of President Trump.
It's really amazing that we're even having those conversations. And I've shared with you before, but I watched Kennedy speak at an event, and he talked about how this all traces back to like 1989. You can see major problems with health all start to spike in the charts. Asthma, diabetes, insulin resistance, all the things, right? All of it just shoots up. And they're trying to figure out why that is. Like there's something causal happening. What is it? Nobody's cared because they probably know what it is, right? It's our food is turning into slop. Inflation, it doesn't just hit your dollar, it hits everything else. Stuff that used to have whole wheats in it has crap, whatever, filler garbage in it. And, gums and fillers and all sorts of stuff. And we got pesticides. Who knows what all the electronic interference is doing? Like there's a lot of different things that could be going on. Not to mention the hyper prescribing of drugs and medication to everybody, right? This is all sort of took up with drug advertising and all sorts of things. So what is going on with our health? That's what our agencies should be doing to give us real answers, not feeding us fake food pyramids and lecturing us about buying pharmaceuticals and shoving them into your kids no matter what. We're happy to see RFK and the CDC getting some serious reform, and even President Trump throwing his weight behind it, saying, I want answers on this COVID stuff. We'll see what we get. All right, my friends. What a beautiful day it has been. If you're just joining us, happy Labor Day. Hope you're having a beautiful day today. We had some good business that we attend to. Quick recap, and then we'll jump in and see what you have to say about all this. We talked about it's Rubio and Rubio's closing out of the USAID. It's officially in closeout mode, baby, and that's what we like to see. And so the left went nuts over it. We listened to Chuck Schumer and Susan Collins go nuts. We also read through the most recent lawsuit update courtesy of the Trump administration, sending this in reply in opposition. The Global Health Council really wants that USAID money and they're fighting for it. So we still got to duke it out in the District of Columbia. And of course, we're there. We also then talked about the sorority sisters, these two, this Judge Cobb and this Board of Governor, Lisa Cook, who were sorority sisters together at a very interesting sorority that feels a little bit discriminatory, not very inclusive based on their current board makeup. And we'll see what happens here because Trump is calling for the judge to recuse herself since this sorority has now come out and thrown their weight behind Lisa Cook. And a lot of it too. So we had that update. We also saw some reaction here from this fella, Chris Brunette, who released for us the 85-page tenure packet, which seemingly is redacted, but it shows that somebody said, don't reappoint. Do not reappoint Lisa Cook, okay? She's dumb and terrible. And so she got reappointed anyways because the dean said, well, I don't want to be called a bigot. And so then they appointed her. So that all happened. We heard from Ro Khanna, who's trying to not answer questions, all in that segment. Then we went over, Kristi Gnome made this update. She said that CBS News is clipping out her interview, and that's problematic because that one snippet was pretty critical. Talked about how Kilmar's a wife-beating, human trafficking, illegal alien, and that's pretty important for their audience, but now they got clipped. We also then read through another memo opinion from the weighty interest judge, Cobb, and Trump, of course, will appeal this, but it was a bizarre decision. She's like, the law's fine, statute's fine, you are not really breaking anything officially, I just don't like how you're doing it, more or less, is the crux of it. We read through it, got some reaction from Tom Homan, and saw that Housing and Urban Development is now canceling money for illegal alien housing, which is good. Rand Paul came out and went after Pentagram, freak show CDC dude, this guy. And Trump is now asking and demanding answers about the Operation Warp Speed program and the results from the jabs. We also then had reaction from some other doctors. We heard from Maxine Waters. This fella right here gave us a great remembrance of what happened. Dr. Marty Makary. And Stephen Miller explaining the CDC is being reformed. And so, my friends, it's a beautiful Monday. Thank you for joining us on this early stream. Now let's see what you have to say about all of this and more. And thank you for supporting our work. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. Really appreciate the donos. Membos, stick around and we will have our after party over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com and on YouTube. We'll send in a new link over there. All right, and so my friends, let's see who is joining us on the day. We had some great donos come in. Let me get these puppies queued up for us over here. Pop out our YouTube friends and our YouTube chat, and we'll say hello to everybody in the house. All right, what's cooking over here? Boom. Getting some stuff pasted up. And let's see what we've got. We got some donos. Hey, thank you, friends. Okay, this is amazing. We got some donos over here. Courtesy of... What's going on here? What did I just do? First one in the house. I'm an American man. Thank you. I'm an American man. Me too. It's good to have you here. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Became our newest supporter. Great to have you here. And I'm an American man. Says sun's out, guns out, baby. It is warming up. It is warming up. Hopefully you're getting some vitamin D today. It's really good to get out there and just kind of bask in the sun now that it's starting to... actually, it's not warming up. It's cooling down. What was I just saying? It's actually getting cooler. As far as I can tell. Yeah, it's getting cooler. So I think I was wrong. But anyways, get your last days of sun's out, guns out, because it's about to enter the fall season. Got ahead of myself. All right. Thank you for that. I'm an American man. Yeah, it's not that. It's actually a little cooler. Like I was thinking to myself, wait, it's not that hot out. I had to put a little throw over today and this morning. All right. Anyways, Mel Snare. Pretty sure Fanny is also in the same sorority. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, she fit right in. What are the qualifications to be in that sorority? Like, does your BMI have to be like 20 over what it should be? Is that the standard? Is there a scale? You have to come in, like step on the scale? No, sorry. You got to be over 320 if you want to be in this sorority. All right. It's like, I'll come back. Give me a week. I'll come back. I'll make it. Hey, what's up, Guillotine Builder? Wait, a redacted tenure packet from Guillotine Builder. Yes, so I think he got it through a FOIA request. And so, yeah, it was redacted, which is pretty funny. Hey, there we go. Okay, cool. A little bit bigger there. Thank you for that, Guillotine Builder. Very nice to have you. Mel Snare, thank you for that one. Bruce Elroy. What's up, Bruce? Thank you, Bruce. Number 3 in the chat today. Appreciate you for being here. What's up says, the bald vaccine guy insists babies get hepatitis B jabs, mostly transmitted via feces. Is a chains, black leather, etc. kind of a fruit? It's true. Has lots of online posts modeling as such. I know I had to share some of the images with you. Just so you know, like that was in the CDC. Says, I'm not surprised he's afraid of Hep B. From Bruce Leroy. Very spicy comment, Bruce. And I can't disagree. Don't. Imagine Mayorkas is not being able to take the 5th. Yeah, Alejandro. And it's funny how they say that about like, well, who did a lot of these other people have like medical backgrounds or science degrees or anything like that? Or, you know, and some of them did, like some of them did, but like Xavier Becerra, like wasn't he attorney general or something? Anyways, Andrew Side, what's up? Says maybe the money is to convince us South Africans that producing an ID when we vote is a form of oppression and discrimination. So you're in South Africa. Producing an ID, okay, well, they're trying that here. Yeah, they're trying that here too. If you even dare say something like we should have IDs checked, you get called a bigot who is trying to suppress the minority vote. Because apparently minorities don't have IDs or something. You need an ID for everything except voting in America. And it's bigotry. And a bunch of Democrat lawsuits are suing and trying to undermine the poor people or whatever. And they're doing it in South Africa too. Not a surprise. Thank you for being here, Andrew. Thanks for watching from South Africa. Super cool. Guillotine Builder, what's up? This judge proves the need of my channel name, which is a man who builds devices from the man who builds devices. What's up, Peaches? I've heard of possible military tribunals. Let's pray this conspiracy theory is true. For military tribunals, they are traitors. Gates, Clinton, Soros, Nadler, Shifty. I mean, I'd like to see them prosecuted in our courts. It's like why, like they should just, be charged, and we should just prosecute them according to the law. We want peaceful, lawful proceedings before the sentences are passed down. What's up, Mr. Spock? What's up, Mr. Spock? In the house. Thank you, Mr. Spock, for the nice dono and this dancing pair. We're very grateful to have him here. liven up our screen. Thank you for being here, Mr. Spock. Doan is here, says, said it before, Trump can walk back his hard sell of Operation Warp Speed based on so much tainted intel. This may be him doing it right now. Yeah, honestly, I thought that was a very nice statement. He's like, man, I saw the numbers. They told me it was good. Am I being lied to? Doan is here, says, read Pandemia by Alex Berenson. Yeah, Alex did very good work during the COVID stuff. Yeah, he was very aggressive with that. He got censored. I mean, he was taking a lot of slings and arrows back during that era. We remember that. Peaches, what's up? All our TV, music, Olympics have blatant satanic symbolism. Yeah, which is why I hate most of it. It seems clear to me that there is a demonic spirit behind this progressive movement. Yeah, I think that's true too, Peaches. I think we were just talking about this on a Membo stream about Burning Man and kind of the romanticism of that type of lifestyle, which I think is just an alternative to, actual spirituality and a connection with your higher power. It feels just like an alternative thing, and much more aligned with Satanism and demonism and the darker side of the energy. Like there's negative energy and there's positive energy. We can all feel it. And some people, I think, will mistake negative energy for positive energy because you can draw power from it. And a lot of people will support you in that. It's got an allure to it. So I agree with it. I think that a lot of our pop culture is very, very dishonest. I think sports in many ways, and the music and Hollywood and the dancing and the songs and the lyrics. I think that a lot, that's why I don't like a lot of lyrics and songs, is because I think it's programming your brain. Like you just hear it and it's being injected into your subconscious, and it's some other person's words and it's programming you. So yeah, I exercise a lot of caution in that space because I think it is very persuasive. It's weapons grade persuasion that you can't even, you just listen to it. I love this song. Peaches. And you got a whole generation of people talking about, their vaginas or whatever. Anyways, Peaches. I know more people harmed by the jab than by COVID, from Peaches. Yeah, I think your experience is similar. Yeah, I think it's similar. Or I think my experience was, I heard a lot of people get the jab and then get the COVID, but other people who didn't get the jab didn't get COVID, kind of a situation, kind of like a weird thing happening there. So thank you, Peaches, for the update. Michelle, what's up? One reason hospitals push the Hep B vaccine on newborns is because they don't want to be held liable for a newborn getting Hep C from the hospital. Hospitals are breeding grounds for Hep B. Hospitals should be cleaner. Yeah, so it's not like you need it. It's like we're probably gonna kill your kid if you bring him in here and give him hepatitis. So we're gonna need to kind of like sanitize your kid because we're so dirty. Yeah, that's a scary thought too, Michelle. And what do you do about it? It's like I know somebody close in my life that was also been like a midwife and who's helped a lot of women give births and stuff, and even that's like risky. Like it's a complicated thing, this whole baby thing. Gosh. Alana, hey Rob, if the CDC wants to push the jabs, have the ingredient list available to every doctor and parent, just like what I check out at the store with. Yeah, so you could just see all the, fetal embryonic cells or whatever they have to shove in those things. Alana, thank you for that comment. Yeah. And we need a lot more data than what they gave us. So some really good stuff. Thank you for sending those in. YouTube friends, very, very appreciative of those. Let's see what's cooking over on locals. I think we've got some locals. Tips. We do. What's up? Bucky's is Rome is here. Great to see you, Bucky's is Rome. Shared this one. Says, can I get a grant for my security to buy guns and stuff to protect me from the Fruit Loops and extremists that were imported here? Well, you have a right to self-defense, as any, Second Amendment American does. Or does America just want to protect the people who want to take over the West? What's here? DHS Nonprofit Security Program. Prime awardee is the New York City Muslim Center. Wow, $450,000 from Homeland. Yeah, Homeland's given a bunch of money to a bunch of religious groups. I think I saw like 100 million went to some Jewish organizations, and they're like dishing out a bunch more. So I don't know what the final breakdown is, but there was an initial tranche of, I think, of 100 million I saw. And then like another 150 is coming down. And it's all like in the name of like, freedom of religion stuff, which makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Like, I don't care where that money's going. I'd rather it not come from the federal government to anybody, whether it's, Catholics or anybody. It's like, I don't know what this is about. Why are we just handing out taxpayer dollars to religious organizations, no matter what stripe they are? I don't know. Hey, what's up, G-Men? When my fraternity brother became an ADA, a district attorney, whatever he was doing traffic tickets and stuff right out of school. My wife got multiple traffic tickets. I did a lot of traffic tickets right out of law school. It's a great way. Like, traffic tickets are a great way to cut your teeth, man. In Arizona, we have a lot of criminal traffic tickets too, so they're misdemeanor. Like, misdemeanors, pretty aggressive, lots of points, license suspensions, real serious insurance consequences. Like, we don't play here. But it's a great way because it's, a traffic stop is the start of every other crime. It's, any other road crime. It's the pretext to a DUI. It's the pretext to a drug crime. It's the pretext to, a lot of things. So getting good at those is, I think, a very important stepping stone to being a good DUI lawyer, being a good criminal defense attorney. Anyways, saw the last name, asked if she was related to me. As soon as she said yes, he dismissed them all. This sorority sister thing could be interesting. Man, that's a good benefit. G-Men, fraternity bro, huh? Got your tickets dismissed? I wonder what the cops said about that, but it doesn't matter. Maybe he was in the fraternity too. Awesome story. What's up, Bucky's? As Rome says, from Wall Street tapes on X, apparently a historical Democrat RICO crime ring just got uncovered in Michigan. If this is true, and the FBI hasn't swooped in and arrested dozens of Democrats, then Republicans are not only worthless, but they're complicit at this point. Over from Wall Street Apes. Thank you for that, Bucky's. Chubby says, my assumption is that this administration has a contract for each interview they do requiring an immediate copy of the full interview before any editing. It's just these guys forgot about it or just that plain dumb. Maybe both. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's their standard now, right? Because Trump sued them for lying about Kamala's interview. Maybe it wasn't CBS. I think it was. So why would they do that again? Obviously, this is Christy Gnome, not Trump. It's not an election, but it still does feel dishonest. G-Men, having a geographic distance for using expedited removal, it sounds arbitrary and capricious. It certainly does. How do you define what that distance is without making up an arbitrary number? Exactly. Yeah, if it's good enough for 100 miles, why not 200? Why not 300? Why not 1,000? Oh, it's because it's not about the geographic proximity. It's about whether they came in the country illegally. Now, they just try to limit it, right? Well, 100 miles. No. That's not what the law says. Trump says that's not what the law says. And he's not executing it that way, following the regulations that don't limit him in any way. What's up, Chubby? So can newer illegals sue this judge for discrimination in her ruling? I'd not be surprised to see it, given how much the left loves to eat their own. Sure would be hilariously ridiculous, but entertaining. Yeah, that'd be interesting. If you had, like, the illegal immigrant population sue each other because some of them are getting other rights than others. Chubby, aren't judges supposed to use the facts of the case for their judgments? Sure is a lot of conjecture and hyperbole in this one from Judge Cobb, no doubt. Sharpie Guy, what's up? In case you missed it, Galliano is in intensive care. Giuliano in car crash. Absolutely got it. Brother, I have watchers withdrawal when you skiddy the schedule up. So is the rest of the week going to be normal? Set your clock to it. LOL. We'll be back on track tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, the rest of the week should be pretty scheduled. Today's a holiday, which is why we're going earlier. The news is pretty quiet today, so that's why. But we miss you too, Sharpie Guy. Thanks for being a membo. And tomorrow, back on regular schedule. Tony D, I tried tipping that Ketanji chat, but it didn't work. From Tony D. Thank you, Tony D. That one worked. Mel Ann says Newsom didn't take the lesson, Russiagate. If you take a swing at Trump, you better not miss. From Milan about Newsy. Deluxe Knight, what's up? Farmer in the house growing our food for us. Says Maxine Waters needs to go away. She looks like one of the raisins from the Claymation Raisin commercials from the 90s, dancing around like jazz players. Yeah. Or like a Star Trek character, either way. This old guy, Maxine Waters, is bad. Is there any work being done at the CDC to develop a vaccine? I don't know. It has a nice rhyme to it. The vaccine. Get yours today at your local Walgreens. G-Men, there are a bunch of all black only fraternities and sororities. Is that true? I didn't know that. Why would I? I'm not a black female. But if we tried to do that, maybe I should identify as one and see if I can join. And then if they don't allow it, just call them bigots. But if we tried to do that, it'd be a big problem. Yeah, imagine like a white women's only sorority. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't think so. I think there might be trends towards that, right? But do they officially like delineate this as like, is it African American only? It's wild. G-Men, I thought that was racism, but I guess not. G-Men, there are a bunch of black only fraternities and sororities. Adesia, in my professional opinion, the fewer meds you take and the fewer vaccines you get, the better off you are. I think that's true, Adesia. I think the concept there is via negativa. So you actually get more benefits by removing things. Okay, a lot of what causes the ailments are the additives, and people just get into additive fever, and it's like add more and add more and add more, and then you take a pill, and then you got to take another pill to counteract the side effect of that pill. It's like this weird thing. That's not good, and everybody wants instant gratification, so you just go to the doctor, and they're like, here, just take this, and it should solve everything, and you can be on it for 15 years. Hey, what's up, Spuds? Today is the last day of the New York State Fair. This sand sculpture celebrates the 200th anniversary of the Erie Canal, which is where I work. Man, look at this. Woo! Look at that sandcastle, man. That's pretty dang cool. The fair. Clinton's Ditch, then and now. Man, so it's called Clinton's Ditch. It's an interesting name. Is that what it says? It does. It says Clinton's Ditch. What exactly is this a drawing of? All right. Definitely looks like a boat, but I had to validate that. All right. So good stuff over there. Thank you for that one, Spuds. Have a great time celebrating Clinton's Ditch Parade over there. It's going to be fun. And shout out to our friends at the Erie Canal, 200 years. Amazing. Good stuff. All right. And Dan says Maxine Waters will be reelected and she'll serve out the remainder of her term, says Dan. What's up, Peaches? Good to have you, Peaches. They will never be fairly tried in our courts. They're too corrupt. Imagine being a juror against Hillary. You know, and your family would be in danger. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that going on. It's like the Clinton death count is very high. So are they going to get prosecuted? They're scheduled, I think, for depositions coming up soon, too. So that should be fun. All right, my friends, thank you so much for sending those donos in. Very much appreciate those. Let's say hello to our friends on X briefly, and then it's after party time. So we'll come see you in the after party if you're joining us. We have some comments over here. We do. What's up, B-Torn? B-Torn is in the house. Gen X is in the house. What's up, Gen X? Oh, look at this picture. How fun is this? Gen X says, have a great day. Hi, Janek. Rob 2, here's from Romeo. Look at this handsome pup right there. What's up, Romeo? Who's a real good boy Romeo is. Yes, he is. Go get that little toy there for us. Amazing. So shout out. And you can tell he's as outraged about the Global Health Council as we are. Shout out to Romeo. What's going on? B-Torn is here. Says the biggest disease plaguing American health is the lust for the almighty dollar. Yeah, remember back during COVID, they didn't tell anybody to go exercise or anything. Like just sit at home and just like drink yourself to death. Like, well, obesity might be causing people to die. That's okay. Just get fatter. So what? Just get fatter. No one even talked about it. Hey, B-Torn says must watch. Scott Pressler issues a dire warning for Republicans flagged over from B-Torn. Well, we hope not. Anyways, hopefully the warning is not anything too bad. All right. So my friends, say Clinton's ditch 3 times fast. I don't know if I want to do that here. Anyways, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Happy Labor Day. Thanks for joining us early on this on this day. We are going to get back to the regular schedule tomorrow. So members will be back in the morning at our usual time and then back for the regular stream. But we will pause here for the day and of course, wish you the best Labor Day. you can possibly imagine. Before we wrap it up, we're going over to Locals and YouTube for our members only after party. So YouTube friends, stick around. I'll drop a link in the chat. Locals friends, just hang tight. We'll be back very shortly, and we'll see what you have to say about it. But my friends, it has been a beautiful day. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your support with the donos and the membos, and for being here and for being a part of our show. We really appreciate it. Thanks for making what we do possible. We'll pause here for the evening. Before we wrap it up, I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Big shout outs to K-Bean, Carrie B. We got John and Donut Mind Me. We've got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Elliot, Just Rhonda, and Jigum, all on the fort down for us. Keeping things nice and orderly, hopefully enjoying their Labor Day today. And having a beautiful start to the week. My friends, we're going to pause here for just the evening. We're going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to get into it again. But in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful day, my friends, on an amazing Labor Day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. We brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Nothing to hide. So drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through